Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Welcome again, everyone. My name is Cynthia Stevens, and I'll be chairing today's hearing. The other panel members on the board with me today are Ian Mahone and Bill Moretsky. Our assessor is Eric Gauthier, and our secretary for today's hearing is Stephen Lunn. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once the hearing has concluded for your property, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process this afternoon, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have of the assessor, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. On today's docket, we will be hearing items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mr. Lunn, will you please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony for the first property? Thank you.
Your assessor, please state your full name.
Eric Gauthier.
You affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Is that me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Bruce Henry Haynes, 94 Kirby Drive.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, you can proceed. We are just dealing with the assessment value of this property today, correct?
Correct.
Okay, please proceed with your presentation.
I'll start with the subject property. We're dealing with roll number 0743270600, 94 Kirby Drive. It's located in the neighborhood of Heritage Park. It is a one-story dwelling. It's built in 1967. We have no effective age on the property, so it hasn't, to our knowledge, hasn't received any substantial renovations. It is 1,760 square feet of living space. It has a walkout basement, which is quite unusual for that year built. The basement is finished. It has one full bath, 2 half baths, and we have 2 extra showers. It does have central air conditioning. It has 2 fireplaces. It has a multiple attached garage that I have here noted as 572 square feet, so kind of like a double oversized garage. It does not have any detached garages, no pools, and no sunrooms. It's on a larger lot, 11,272 square feet. It backs onto the park in Sturgeon Creek. That's basically it. The assessed value that we have in 2023, we assessed it at $528,000 after a reduction at our residential review appointment program. We can get into that later. I have 4 comparables for you today. I struggled to find comparables because this house is larger than most houses in the neighborhood, and it has a walkout basement. It's on a choice lot, a pie lot that's larger than most. So I tried my best. I wish they were a little bit tighter in proximity, but we'll start with the range of comparables here. So they're all bungalows, the same style of home. They're all built between 1952 and 1968. The effective age we have on file varies between 1968 and 1982, so they have various levels of renovations done to them. The square footage range that I'm dealing with here on the comparables is between 1,484 square feet and 1,879 square feet. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any with walkout basements. It was something very much out of the norm in the 60s. And it does impact the value, but none of the comparables have that feature. The basement is finished in all of the comparables. The bathrooms, for full bathrooms, the comparables range between 1 and 2 full baths. For half baths, it ranges between 1 and 2. For extra showers, it ranges between 1 and 2. They all have central air conditioning. They all feature either 1 or 2 fireplaces. As for attached garages, only comparable number 4 has a single attached garage. For detached garages, only comparable number 2 has a multiple detached garage. So please note that comparable 1 and comparable 3 have no garages on file. So adjustment would probably be called for there. The land size, I think we should pay attention to that because there's a pretty wild range here between at the low end 7,608 square feet. And at the high end of my comparables, 13,610 square feet. To note that the subject property is on a larger lot. All the sales that I've chosen are within our reference period. You'll notice that. The sale prices vary between $421,000 to $475,000. The sale price per square foot varies between $252,000 and $297,000 per square, or $297 per square foot. The time adjusted sales prices vary between $438,000 and $500, and we'll call it $15,000 to round up. The time adjusted sales prices per square foot varies between $274 up to $329. So you'll see on my map the comps, none of them would have a choice location like the subject, and once again, none of them have the walkout basement onto the park. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything like that. My recommendation is basically to maintain the assessment at $528,000. Our original model value came in at $585,000. The homeowner approached us at the residential review appointment program. We then decided to reduce from 585 down to 528, giving the homeowner a substantial reduction on the assessed value. Other than that, I think that's about it. I mean, we're just kind of dealing with a feature-rich property that's compared to the rest of the homes in the area. It's got a lot of layers added onto it: size, location, and the walkout basement.
Okay, so is that your presentation?
That is, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Haynes, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yeah, I just have one. And I don't dispute anything he said. He's completely correct with the other comparables in the area. But I get my only question is in regards to looking at comparables, I'm just curious as to why 60 Kirby Drive, which is a block or 10 houses away from me, wasn't included.
Yeah, I would. I think you included this one in one of yours. The main reason is because number one rule in appraisal theory is to, if you can, as much as possible, is to maintain the same style of homes. There's many reasons for that, but for example, 60 Kirby Drive, I noticed that comparable, but it is a 4-level split, and they don't command the same price as bungalows on the market. So our model will actually segregate 4-level splits and 3-level splits and 2 stories and model them together the same way the marketplace typically would attribute certain values to certain types of properties. So I'm very careful unless I'm backed in a corner with no comparables. There will be one today that we're going to discuss that's a case like that, but that's very difficult to find comps where then you don't really have a choice to compare apples and oranges. But in this case, I prefer to stick to be a purist and stick to bungalows. And I wish I could have found some walkout basements. It's really not a feature that's normal in those years. It's really tough to find. I even looked citywide and had trouble finding something built in the 60s with a walkout. So it'd be interesting to know the history on the property, who built it and why they decided that in an era where it wasn't really a thing, but it is what it is.
If I could add, the company that built my house.
Well, Mr. Haynes, you'll have an opportunity to provide information when I call on you. So right now it's just your opportunity to answer questions. I know it can be a bit confusing because of the way this works. So did you have any other questions for the assessor? We'll call on you shortly to give your presentation.
No.
No other questions? Okay. I'm going to turn to the panel now. Mr. Mahone, did you have any questions?
I just had one question, Mr. Goche. You indicated that you sought out single stories or bungalows, and then you alluded to the fact of the modeling theory and assessment with respect to like being compared to like. What is the, can you give us a general rule of thumb? Are bungalows or single story houses in assessment model worth more per square foot than a 2-level or a 3-level split or a 4-level split, or is there that kind of correlation?
Well, they're just modeled separately. I can't give you specific numbers as to, and it varies by neighborhood, to be honest with you. But I can't give you a specific number like 2 stories. I can tell you on a construction standpoint, because one of my jobs is to add new construction. And there's a dramatic difference in prices when you look at a 2-story versus a bungalow for price to construct. Those costs typically bleed out into the marketplace. So there is a substantial difference. And like I said, we're very careful with our models to make sure we model those separately. And if you read any appraisal theory, if you take courses with AIC, you'll find that the number one golden rule is, if you can, by all means, stick to the same type of dwelling. And there are cases where you get, I used to do appraisals in the private sector where I come across cottages and struggle with that because it's very difficult to find similar style properties. If you don't have them, then you can use other types of dwellings, but then you would have to justify an adjustment based on these differences and do a market research. So I prefer to not open up cans of worms with market researches. Like I said, today we're going to see one property where be open about it and indicate that I had no choice. But anyways, in this particular case, there were enough bungalows to use, so I don't see the need to use 4-level splits or 2-story homes.
And sorry, just one other question. The only comparison or comparable that backs onto, I guess, that same park, although I guess that same park is your comparable number 1?
That would be correct.
56 Valley View Drive?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
Yes, would you say that the fact comparable number 1 does back onto the creek, that's a key comparable when you're doing this exercise?
Well, it's definitely probably, in my opinion, one of the better comparables, but you have to note that the walkout basement is also a factor. It is much smaller in size. So just to give you an idea, a typical adjustment on a square footage, on an older home like this, you might adjust $150 a square foot. So our model is making these adjustments in the background, right? So it's a 1,484 square foot house. So you have to add a substantial amount on the size. And then I would note, if you look at my map and if you look at the land size, you'll notice a huge discrepancy between the first comparable and the subject. Subject's on a big pie lot. As far as I could tell, I didn't spend too much time on this, but it looked like one of the better choice lots in the entire neighborhood on size and just shape and location. So that's something else that, our model is giving so much per square foot on the land. So, there's a substantial difference between the land size, the house size, and the walkout basement. So you start adding these things and it starts adding up, right? But I think it is the best comparable that I could find.
So just a follow-up question then. So if the comparable one does not have any garage at all, correct?
I'm sorry. It does not have.
Does not have a garage at all, and whereas the subject has a multiple.
Correct. So there's another $30,000 adjustment there required, and the reason I'm saying that is, you're into 572 square foot garage on the subject. So that's not just a little garage here. We're talking over a double garage, anyways.
So did you say the adjustment for the fact that it did not have any garage at all compared to a multiple, whatever square footage it was, said that was $30,000?
Well, I'm saying that our model is adjusting for these type of features, right? When you add a garage, the model is adding so much per square foot. The same way the marketplace would add value for a garage. So yes, garage is a definitely an add-on here. There's the size of the lot, there's the walkout, and the size of the house.
So I just want to clarify, did you say it was $30,000 was the estimated value of the difference?
That would be a reasonable adjustment for that size of a garage.
Okay.
It's not something that you necessarily just get across the board, because we do come across cases where garages are old or near tear down condition. But, as far as I can tell, if the garage is in decent shape, then that would be a reasonable adjustment.
So then, if comparable one is 438, 300. So if you added 30,000 to that, it would be 468.
Now add for the walkout basement.
And then you added some for the walkout basement as well. How much for that?
A typical adjustment that I would do for a walkout basement is in the neighborhood of $50,000 plus. I would use 50,000 because that's probably at the lower end of things. On new construction, it can be more because you get into structural wood floors, you get into grading of the property. So the price really skyrockets, like when I'm adding new construction on walkouts versus non-walkouts. So there's a huge, but 1967, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I have a whole bunch of market data that I can show you about walkout basements in 1967. It's really not something normal back then. I suspect this was built by somebody in the construction industry who was a visionary at the time or something, because the house is larger, it has these features that were way ahead of its time.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gauthier, I'm just going to ask you, and I'm assuming based on your responses that you actually haven't inspected the property, and have you inspected any of the properties today? Just so we don't have to ask you every time.
Any of the properties today? I think we're going to have to go one by one on that. Otherwise,
okay, all right. But you have inspected this one?
I have not inspected.
You have not. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that's all I had. Now, Mr. Haynes, it's your opportunity to present to us, please. So please go ahead when you're ready.
I'm ready. First off, I'd like to thank the whoever coordinates these meetings. It's been 150% seamless, from the application to the response to the information provided 2 days ago and yesterday, and everything's been, I was simply amazed, having participated in Zoom meetings in the past. All I can say is this one's 250%. Saying that.
Well, thank you. I'm sure the staff in the clerk's office will be very pleased to hear that. So thank you for saying that.
Oh, well, as I say, I was truly impressed, and I was just, I couldn't, it was very great to see. And in regards to my presentation, I provided you with a list of comparables, and I was using the comparable of Sturgeon Creek as the influence on the property, because it is. If you're backing onto Sturgeon Creek, it is a significant influence. And that's why all the comparables I provided were backed onto Sturgeon Creek. However, I'm only going to focus on one, which is the 60 Kirby Drive. And the reason I'm focusing on it is because the house square footage is almost 50% more square footage than mine. The property or the lot is larger than my lot, square footage. It's 5 houses away. So I would say that's, and I understand it's 4 stories or 3 stories.
Okay. Mr. Haynes, I'm just sorry to interrupt you. I want to stop you because so you're focusing on this property, but you have the assessment role for the property. Did this property sell at all in the last couple of years?
Yes, it sold in 0820.
Okay.
400.
And do you have that in your presentation as well as the assessment?
No, I don't. Well, that was provided on the list of comparables that was sent to me. For comparable sale properties in the area, 60 Kirby Drive was one of them.
Okay, so the only reason I'm mentioning that is because we can't take into consideration assessed value of another property. It has to be sales. So
the sale value is 411.
411, and you said that, and it sold when?
08220.
08220. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it was.
No, that's okay. No. I know it can be quite confusing going between the two. So yeah, so that's valid evidence if you've given us a sale. But in terms of the assessments that you've included in your information here, we can't consider those as part of the evidence because it's only assessment. Yeah.
Because all those ones that I provided were also from sales in the area.
Okay.
Everything I provided was from the sales in the area that was sent to me to be used as comparables.
Okay. Well, if you have the sales values for the ones that you got that you've listed in your documents here, please feel free to provide them.
Well, that was my best one, was 60.
Okay.
And the other ones are there, but I thought that the stronger case was 60 because it's bigger. I know it's 4 levels. It's got a larger land area than mine. It backs onto Sturgeon Creek, which is what this one does. And as I say, the other ones were all from sales comparable that were sent to me in the list from the city prior to this meeting.
Okay. Please go ahead if you want to continue to talk about that one comp in your own property. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, that was 60. I got to tell you, the only reason I'm here is not so much because I don't like paying property tax, because I'm a big tax believer, because without taxes we get no service. As simple as that. But anyways, the reason I'm here is because when I see something that I perceive to be a little peculiar, is what comes into play. And I know that Eric was so kind to point out he's having a hard time finding comparables. He's right. And the issue is, based on what you're obligated to follow with, it's difficult to look at similar places in the area unless they've been sold. And the reality is, as Eric has pointed out, it's hard to find this type of house. But the reality is the builder built this house, built 3 of them, all within a block and a half, all backing onto Sturgeon Creek. And there's 2 others, exactly the same house, 94 Lonsdale and 34 Lonsdale, exactly the same house, a smaller lot, I agree, but their assessed values are 100,000 less than mine. So again, I guess that's, and I understand you can't do anything about that, but that's the only reason I'm here, is because it just seems peculiar that I'm paying this, and the guy down the street, two of them, are paying a lot less than me, and we're living in the same house. And I know there's nothing you can do, but I'm just pointing that out for whatever. But anyways, that's my presentation. I'll stick to 60 Kirby because the other ones, even though they're similar, I believe that's the stronger one. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, do you have any questions for Mr. Haynes?
I just wanted to know if Mr. Haynes was aware that I just mapped 60 Kirby. So not only is it a 4-level split, which is not really comparable to a bungalow, but it's on a reverse pilot. So those of you who are not familiar with that, the ideal is to have the narrow frontage and the wide backyard onto the park. So 60 Kirby is in a really bizarro location where it actually has the opposite. Tiny little narrow backyard onto the park, massive front. So not only is
Okay.
frontage,
Okay, maybe you could present that after you've asked questions, because right now you're supposed to be asking Mr. Haynes some questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want, my question is was he aware that the land shape is substantially different than his property?
I've been in their backyard. Yes, I'm quite aware of it. They got a beautiful backyard and a beautiful back out onto Sturgeon Creek.
And also, were you aware that they do not have a walkout basement, and that may impact the market value in our model and in the marketplace? That's my other question.
Well, their main floor walks out onto the backyard.
But the basement is not a walkout.
Well, no, the basement's in below ground.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Haynes?
No questions.
Okay, Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions?
I do not think so.
Okay, Mr. Haynes, you might have said it when you were speaking to us about the comparable at 60 Kirby, but do you have the square footage of that property?
Of 60 Kirby or the oh yes, it's 2589.
2589 square feet. Okay, thank you.
Which again is almost 50% bigger than mine.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the questions that I had. Is there any need for a summary? Mr. Gauthier, would you like to summarize anything?
Well, just what I mentioned before. It's a feature-rich property. It's difficult to find comparables that are on a prime location that have the size, that have the walkout, that are backing onto the park. So that's our model adds for these things because like the guy down the street that doesn't have the walkout, that has half the land size, doesn't have the pie backyard. It's not fair for them, to be compared and have the same assessment as the subject property. So these things are factored in our model the same way they're factored in the marketplace, or we hope they are. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Haynes, anything you'd like to say in summary?
Well, I think you guys are doing a great job, 100%. Keep it up. And again, I'll probably see you next year.
Okay, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it, and you'll be getting our decision shortly in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so the next property on our docket today is number 3, which is 591 McIver Avenue. Correct. So, Mr. Lund, if you could swear in the applicant when you're ready, please. When you're ready, please.
And if you don't mind closing your YouTube.
Yeah, I just did that.
Okay, fantastic. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
David Ailson.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Olson. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Okay.
calling me.
Okay, so we're going to start with Mr. Gauthier's presentation on the assessed value of your property. And Mr. Gauthier, we are just dealing with the assessed value this afternoon, correct? Okay, please go ahead when you're ready.
All right, the subject property is 931 McIver, roll number 040003293600. It is a one-story dwelling built in 1969. We have an effective age of 1974, so some mild renovations that have been done along the way. We have 1,460 square feet of living space. We have a full basement with basement finishing. We have 2 full baths, 1 half bath, and a shower. We have that it has central air conditioning, no fireplaces, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages, no in-ground pools, and no sunrooms. It's on a ginormous lot, 17,853 square feet. With obviously being on McIver has some traffic, so we have medium traffic influence on it. Our assessed value is for 2023 is $392,000. Just a note on my brief here that the homeowner approached us during the residential review appointment program. Our model initially came in at a value of $422,000, and we reduced it to $392,000. So that's basically, and I wanted to mention in 2016, the subject property was purchased for $369,500. So, that's basically 5 years prior to our reference date. So we're only 6% higher than that at this current time. So just keep that in mind. I managed to find 4 comparables. I wanted, for the most part, I was trying to find some that were on McIver, on traffic, as much as possible, to be fair. So out of the 4 comparables, and you can refer to my map for their location, they're all one-story bungalows. The year built ranges between 1968 and 1982.
And sorry, was I supposed to get a copy of any documents? Or no? You keep referencing a map, and I don't have a map.
Do you have the assessor's presentation with the comparable properties listed on it? Do you have that?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever received it.
Okay, is it possible to get that to him, Stephen?
Yep, I'll do that right away.
Do you know when I would have received it? And would it have been somebody other than the clerk board of revision or Michelle Neepen?
So you would have received it had we received an evidence submission from you within the time frame indicated.
Oh, okay.
So because we were not able to share in advance, but we will release it now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll just wait a second can you let us know when you have that?
Just
Please?
also, as a side note, I didn't receive any of the appellant's information or any evidence either. So.
Yeah, I really didn't have much to submit. I just wanted to see what we had, what it was compared to.
Okay, I have just sent you the document. Let me know when you have it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You got
Yeah, I
it?
got it.
Okay, great. Okay, Mr. Gauthier, please proceed.
All right, I'll start over with the comparables because we went through the subject property. Everyone's okay with that, I guess. So I found 4 comparables. They're all bungalows. The year built of my comparables between 1968 and 1982. The effective year built would vary between 1968 and 1982. The living area varies between 1,206 square feet and 1,499 square feet. They all have full basements. All have basement finish except comparable number 4. Full baths range between 1 and 2. Half baths range between 1 and 2. Extra showers range between 0 and 1 for the comparables. They all have central air conditioning except comparable number 3. They all have a multiple attached garage except comparable number 1. Comparable number 1 has a multiple detached garage. As for in-ground pools, none of the comparables have in-ground pools. And sunrooms, comparable number 1 has a sunroom. The land varies greatly in size, from at the low end 7,206 square feet. At the higher end, I have one that has 15,103 square feet of land. 2 of the comparables are on medium traffic and on McIver Road, the same, or McIver Avenue, the same street as the subject. All of the sales are in our reference period. The sales prices vary from $372,000 to $407,000, so that's the range. The sale price per square foot ranges at a low end of $248 to $323. The time adjusted sales prices ranges from $414,300 to $435,800. So the time adjusted sales prices range per square foot at between $278 and $361. My recommendation is to maintain the current assessment of $392,000, mostly because I feel like it's supported by the comparable sales, and we've already reduced it substantially at our residential review program, and just based on the 2016 purchase. At $369,000, we're only 6% higher. I feel like the market has gone up substantially more than that. That's basically it. Does anyone have any
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Olson, do you have any questions for Mr. Gauthier?
Yeah, so just a few. The first one is what's the factor of the value of an attached garage?
factor of a value? Well, I can't tell you exactly what our model is adding because our model is quite complex. It can devalue based on age of an out structure. It can vary by different neighborhoods. But when I was doing appraisals in the private sector, I mean, a typical adjustment, as I mentioned on a previous hearing, a typical adjustment for a garage, if it's new, maybe 65 a square foot. If it's older, maybe 50. If it's a tear down garage, then it could be worth $0. So it really depends on the garages specifically. But a typical adjustment, say for a double garage, you're looking at 20, 25K type of thing. And our models can vary depending on age and neighborhood and that sort of thing.
Sorry, that's for attached versus detached, or that's just for the garage alone?
Yeah, the old attached versus detached argument. I mean, the attached is probably worth slightly more, but I usually never split hairs with that. So if I have two properties that one has the exact same size detached garage versus attached garage, if there's going to be an adjustment there, it's nothing substantial enough to split hairs or argue about, in my opinion.
Okay, like if you could you put a value on it roughly?
Value on what?
The attached versus the detached. Like, would you say that it's worth 5,000 more or 10,000 more, or is there a risk cost benefit?
And then I typically don't split hairs on that if there's similar size. Market participants usually prefer an attached garage. We'll pay a little bit more, but I'm not really comfortable giving you an exact value on that. I would say there's a lot of factors like how old's the garage and what's the size of the garage and so on. But if we're not splitting hairs down to a few $1,000s adjustments here and there, I wouldn't really worry about that too much.
Okay. And then what's the factor of so you said ginormous lot. I'll somewhat agree, but my question is, what's the factor, like what would the lot size in this case have attributed to the cost or the value of the property?
You're asking me a question that could take weeks of research. Our model is basically compounding land sales. So we start so imagine our model is a bunch of layers in a cake, and the base layer of the cake is the land. It starts with that. We don't publish our land values, the province I think does, but it is factored into our model. And it's a tough one because sometimes you can have a lot of land, but not a lot of it is necessarily usable, right?
And
there could be bush in the back. There could be, sometimes there's the ability to subdivide. So in this particular case, like, I'm not putting a lot of weight on it because you'll notice, like, I have comps that have half of the land size that are also supporting the value. So, am I going to spend a week to try to figure out and break my head over figuring out exactly how much a 17,000 square foot piece of land is worth versus a 7,000 square feet on McIver? We just don't have the time and resources. Our model is adding so much per square foot of land, so it's clearly a factor.
Okay.
Which may have been the reason why we decided to reduce your assessment when you called in at the residential review program. So oftentimes the model can overdo it on land in certain circumstances, and it may not be warranted. So these are type of special circumstances that we take a human set of eyes and have a look at the best we can.
Okay. And then the other question would be value. And again, it sounds like you probably won't be able to answer it, but I'll ask it anyways. The value of a fireplace. I do see that the other comparables and a lot of the homes in the area do have fireplaces. So I was just curious if that adds, subtracts from the value, and what that would add, or if you could.
Yeah, our model definitely adds value for fireplaces. It varies between neighborhoods. When you're doing single property appraisal and not mass modeling appraisal, fireplaces are a wild card. I'll give you an example. Last week I saw a property with a $60,000 fireplace made of stone, a wood fireplace that would blow your mind, right? So the adjustment for that versus an electric insert in the wall is day and night. So I would say it depends, if you're in Tuxedo or if you're in a place in a neighborhood where fireplaces are the norm and are expected, the value could be higher. But, a typical adjustment when I worked in the private sector, $2,500 to $5,000 on a fireplace would probably diminish when you get into the third or the fourth or the fifth fireplace. I know you laugh, but I've seen it, right? So same goes for bathrooms, right? You start to get overdone on these things. They start to add less and less value. I've seen cases where fireplaces don't add any value because it's an old wood fireplace that needs a liner. The insurance has condemned it, so on and so forth. So to answer your question, it's kind of like the garage. It depends. Our model adds value for sure. Maybe in the neighborhood of $2,500 to $5,000 would be a typical adjustment that I would see if I had a fireplace, depending on the area, the age of the dwelling, and so on.
Okay, so it would be safe to guess that those other properties could be worth $5,000 to $10,000 more if you compared them to mine, just because of the fireplace alone.
Sure, it's not out of the norm to adjust for that. What we're presenting here is a range of comparables and a range of value. Like a full AIC appraisal, the type of appraisals I used to do, we would split hairs with everything, adjust for every single detail. It's not the type of presentation we do here, but if the appraiser came to your home, they would do these type of adjustments and split hairs over things like that. For sure.
That was it for questions for myself.
Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Chairperson, I think you're muted.
My apologies. Someone's using a very loud machine right outside my window, so I didn't want you guys to have to listen to that. I forgot I muted it. Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Just one generally with respect to the subject sale or time adjusted sale price. You mentioned that the difference between the sale price in October of 2016 and the assessment roll of 2023 was approximately 6% when taking into account the time adjusted sale price as well. What amount per annum is used, or does it depend on yearly projections or yearly results from residential real estate?
So these are just kind of global statistics, right? People think that it would be fair for us to just kind of put say like Windsor Park went up 6%, everyone goes up 6%. But the problem with that is the marketplace doesn't actually work that way. So we have examples of condos in this cycle that it didn't go up at all. So to give them a blanket percentage, it wouldn't be fair. And what we would end up with is an unfair taxation system if we utilized percent increases. So you'll see a lot of appellants bring up, well, my house went up more than my neighbors or went up more than these other houses. It's because our model is recognizing that the marketplace is valuing those type of properties more than other types. So it's important not to fall down that rabbit hole. I'm just mentioning here that he paid $369,000 for the property in 2016. So it's not unreasonable on a global perspective, any neighborhood you look at in Winnipeg, that 5 years later, 6% more, like at a quick glance, something doesn't look right to me. It looks low, but it's not evidence that I necessarily want you to consider. Like, I want you to look at the comparable sales that have happened in this cycle. But it's an important factor because it may be evidence that the homeowner paid up for the larger land and so on back then, right? It is relevant, but I also didn't take the time to analyze that sale to see if there was any inconsistencies or if possibly the homeowner overpaid or so on and so forth. So that's why I don't want to put too much weight on it. But when I look at that, the sale of the subject property, there's something that strikes me a little bit unusual with why our assessment would be that. So something happened there. A premium was paid, or maybe homeowner overpaid. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Resky, do you have any questions?
Yeah, and just in respect to the effective year built element. So they vary across the comparables here, 169, 68, 77, 1982, and they don't have full basements that's finished except for number 5. So my question is, the model, are you considering that these have no renovations, that these other properties have had no renovations from the effective year built to today, either in the house itself or in the finished basement?
So
is that the way the comparables have considered it?
Yeah, so what we try to do is when permits come through, or when we verify the sales that come through MLS, we, in order to have a fair system, one of the important factors we need to do is update whether or not the house has had any renovations. And it's a really difficult thing to do accurately because there's some subjectivity to it. So what happens is you look at a house where the kitchen's been renovated, or the bathrooms have been renovated, the floors have been renovated, and what you have is 2 houses side by side, okay? One of them has been renovated, the other one hasn't. What we're trying to represent by adding effective age is to say this one is not original 1977. It's had some level of renovation. So typically what you do is you use 70 to 100 year depreciation cycle on residential real estate. And based on that, you come up with an effective age that makes sense. So we try our best to, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. If you had that Bubba's house that's original 1930 everything, and beside it there's a 1930 house that's been gutted to the bone, what you'll see is that we'll have a very strong effective age on it, and the value will be higher because the marketplace actually commands a higher value. So it's really important that we have that accurate and that we maintain those records. So we try our best to do it. Is it right all the time? No. Do we have it perfect every time? No. But we try our best with the resources we have to be accurate with that.
Okay, thanks. That's a very good explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have no questions for the assessor. So Mr. Olson, you can present to us now if you'd like, please.
Yeah, so I don't have much to say. Sorry, I just wanted to quickly go through that home. Yeah, just give me 1 second here. So yeah, I'd like to just point out a few things about my property versus either the comparables or other properties. I know that it was stated that my house had a detached garage, and like Mr. Sorry, what was his name? The assessor, Mr. Assessor. Whatever he had said about the attached versus detached. Although my garage is an attached garage, there's no access from the inside of the home. So as much as it looks like it's an attached garage, that was the one thing that when we did come to look at the house, they did say that there's a lot of features that look valuable in the property, like the oversized lot, the attached garage. There's actually a fake fireplace in the basement. It looked nice in the sale, like in the real estate documents, but it was actually it did lead people on. And there was a few people that we knew the realtor a little bit, and he had actually said that it was probably a little bit overpriced. But so the attached garage, as much as it's attached, there's no access from the inside. The usable land space, the property was subdivided back in the mid 80s, I believe. And a piece was just a sliver off the right side was sold, and along with the neighbor, and that made one lot in between. And that actually caused the property to have a little bit of a jog in it from the neighbor's property, and it's pretty visible. You can actually see it from any map or anything. So you do lose about 1,500 square feet off the property. So from 17,000 square feet, I'd say just that alone brings the usability down to, probably 15,000 square feet. The other factor with property size is that up until my property, all of the properties or most of the properties on the street are actually squared to the road, and then beyond my property is when they go back to the old fashion of they were angled on like the old, I guess it would have been, that's just how they did them back in the 60s or whatever. So there is some kind of a bit of a loss of our property. It angles into the neighbor's property. So when you're looking at the property, you may think that it is bigger, but again, it's kind of part of the neighbor's property. I don't know if it's really usable. The other statement is 2 hydro poles and 2 hydro easements on the property. When they subdivided the property, the neighbor on the right side applied for a hydro pole, and I guess the homeowners did sign off on getting another hydro pole on the property. I don't know how that impacts the value of the property, but I'd imagine there should be an impact for that, considering it's, I would say, somewhat unsightly. And the other thing is a manhole right in the middle of the front lawn, something to consider. And then some of the other things were just maintenance that I won't mention. The comparables that the assessor had mentioned, just from looking at them, I'll say that I know for a fact 449 Knowles, just from looking at it right now, along with 999 McIver and 850 McIver have all had significant improvements at the time of sale. This home at the time of sale and to this date have had no improvements done. We haven't done any renovations, anything other than a coat of paint on the outside of the home. There's been no windows, roof, furnaces, fireplaces, bathrooms, or anything changed, just as a comment. Yeah, and that was really it for comparables that have been sold in the last few years. That's all for me. Sorry. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I'm just a little bit confused because I pulled up our map here on what exactly the issue is with the shape of the property. So I've included a map as well, and you can see the outline of it. And I zoomed in on it to see, like, in the back corner, there's a little sliver, something going on. But is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Yeah. So and again, well, there's two portions. I'm just looking at. I've got the City of Winnipeg assessment site up, but yeah, you can actually, if you look at the City of Winnipeg assessment, you'll actually see the outline of the property, and you can see that there is a jog in the property from 939 McIver. So there's a bit of a jog there. And because of that, just the way the fences line up, I would say it's somewhat unusable property. Again, that's just an opinion. So that's my comment about that. So
I just want to know if that's what you were referring to. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is did you, another question I have is, did you have any comparable sales that support a lower value for your property that you'd like to share with us today?
No, I don't have any comparable sales. You know what, I haven't, other than just seeing them on realtor websites. I actually haven't seen any of the other homes. I know that a lot of them have been upgraded. For the comparables that you showed, like if you look at them if you actually went into them now, or if you went into them at the time of sale, you'd see that they had been upgraded. No, I don't have any for sales. There was one 2 doors down. It wasn't sold, but it's estimated at $470,000. And I can tell you that the home is probably worth, I'm going to hazard a guess, close to $1.5 million. They've done renovations every year for the last 15 years. So for that property to be valued, and I realized that there was no sale, but for that property to be valued at such a low value, and then mine to be considered, it was coming up to $425,000. Like his is a way nicer property than mine. So yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Ellefson?
So you bought the house in 2016, correct?
Yep.
And you paid $369,500 for it, correct?
Yeah.
So did you think you paid what it was worth when you bought it in 2016?
No, I think we overpaid. We had looked at several other homes in the area, and they were, and I will say a lot of them were kind of patch jobs, and they were asking more money for that patch job. This home had no work done to it since 1969. I think it was original flooring, original walls, original hardwood. Like they literally haven't touched a single thing other than the kitchen flooring, which they put a nice linoleum in, maybe in the 80s. But other than that, nothing had been upgraded. And so we thought, you know what, everything looked solid with the home. There was no damage to the basement. Some of the windows had been replaced. And yeah, we were really sick of shopping around. So it looked like a solid home. And that's the reason that I think we overpaid by around 20. I'm going to hazard a guess, 20 to 25,000. That's just a guesstimate, but they signed off on it an hour after we made our offer. So I would say that we paid more than anybody else was offering, or we paid more than they thought it was worth.
So if you say you paid $20,000 more than what it's actually worth, then in 2 years value, the assessed value is now 43,000 more than what you thought you should have paid for it. So
Yep.
that is about, well, that's about 12%. So that's about 6% a year. Correct? Well, yeah.
I'll take your word
It's
for it.
around 12% for the 2 years, so about 6% per year. So would you say that the houses from 2016 in the Winnipeg market to 2018 in general, that they would have gone up 12%? What do you think?
Sorry, I'm going to interject. Our market valuation date that's being discussed today is April 1st, 2021 and not 2018.
Yes, correct.
Oh, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
You're right.
Sorry, I should have caught that. Thank you for catching that, Mr. Gauthier.
I'm still wired.
Well, that just totally changes quite a bit. So 43,000 over the course of
5 years.
5 years, then, correct?
Now you're on it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you compared Winnipeg as a whole, yeah, potentially. But comparing to the comparables that Mr. Gauthier brought forward, like I said, I don't know that 890, if it had sold in 2016 and then sold again in 2021 in the exact same condition, would it have sold for that much more? I don't know. You'd literally just be guessing. I don't know. At the time, maybe I would have bought that home instead, and maybe I wouldn't be here arguing today. I really don't know.
Okay. No further questions.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, thank you.
No, and I do not either. So I'm going to ask you both if you have any requirement to summarize. Mr. Gauthier?
I think everything was hashed out pretty clearly, but the 850 McIver and 999 McIver are great comparables. I was fortunate enough to find them. They have the traffic. They have in one case, or in both cases, they actually have the substantial land size, like the subject property. The adjusted sale prices more than confirm our assessed value. Like I said before, I don't know that it's fair to look at what someone paid in 2016. I wanted to mention it, but I don't want to put too much weight because I have seen in the marketplace before where people pay way too much for a house, and I did not have a chance to analyze the 2016 sale to see if it was reasonable or not. I just wanted to point that out as a general fact. I think it's more pertinent and more relevant to look at comparable sales, particularly on the same street on large lots that have a lot of similar features, and they support the value that we've dropped the assessment down to already. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Olson, do you have anything you'd like to say in summary?
No, I'll echo what that Mr. Haynes said earlier, that the quality of this meeting is really good, and yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it, and you'll receive our order in the mail shortly.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay,
have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Okay, so the next item on our docket is number 4, 22 Eastwood Drive. And Stephen, you can swear in the applicant once you're ready.
Currently, we have no appearance from.
No? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move number 4 to the end of the docket, and we'll check again to see if the applicant has come on board. So now we'll move to number 5 then, which is 34 Ferndale Avenue, and we can swear in that applicant, please.
Mr. Lachance, are you there?
Okay, so I'm assuming you obviously did speak to the applicant earlier. Maybe they just left the, yeah, they just left the room for a minute, I guess. Okay, let's okay, well, let's move down to number 6 then. We'll move both those down, number 4 and number 5. And so number 6 is 100 Clayton Road.
Oh, there.
And then we'll understand how as well. Madam applicant, please state your full name. You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. You may be seated.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry, just when you were being sworn in, I just want to make sure that can you just pronounce your last name for me so I make sure I say it correctly for you?
Kylick, like good luck.
Kylick, thank you.
For today.
Well, I hope that's your case today. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. So you've been watching how this works. So what we're going to have happen now is have the assessor read your property onto the roll and then provide his presentation. Okay? Go ahead, Mr. Gauthier, when you're ready.
All right, the subject property is roll number 0802123800. It is 100 EB Clayton Road, located in the neighborhood of River Park South. It's a 2-story dwelling built in 2013. It's 2,520 square feet above grade living space. It has a full basement. We have basement finishing on file, 2 full baths, 2 half baths. We have central air conditioning, 1 fireplace, a multiple attached garage, no detached garages. We have a newer in-ground pool in the backyard, and we have no sunrooms. It's on a 7,544 square foot lot, kind of backing onto the perimeter with a berm going up. So we have a heavy traffic influence to reflect that location. We have the assessed value at $604,000. That's it for the subject. I was able to find 4 comparables. You'll notice on my map that I paid special attention and I tried very, very hard to find comparables that were similar year built and that were also, for the most part, backing onto the perimeter as well. Because I feel like there's potential for an impact on market value there that I wanted to capture and not leave any subjectiveness with that. So I'll go over the comparable sales. Please refer to the map to see how close they are to the subject property. The first comparable, I'm going to do a range here. So I have 4 comparable sales. They're all 2-story homes. The year built ranges from 2006 to 2013. Effective year built, same thing, 06 to 2013. A living area ranges from 2,048 square feet to 2,544 square feet. They all have full basements. As for basement finishing, they all have basement finish other than comparable number 1 and comparable number 3. Bathrooms range between full bathrooms range between 1 and 3. Half baths range between 1 and 2. They all have 1 extra shower. Central air conditioning is present in all of the homes. Fireplaces, they're all equal with 1 fireplace in the dwelling. They all have multiple attached garages. None of them have any detached garages. Only the subject property has an in-ground pool. So none of the comparables, unfortunately, have a pool. As for sunrooms, I have no sunrooms on any of the comparables or the subject. Land sizes, as you'll notice on my brief, are very similar. So I thought that was good. As for traffic influences, comparable 1, 2, and 3 as you'll see on the map, all back onto the perimeter. And then comparable 4 does not have any negative land influences. All of our sales, all the sales I'm presenting to you today are in our reference period. The sale prices range at a low end of $540,000 and a high end of $575,000. The time adjusted, or the sale price per square foot ranges from $216 a square foot to $274 a square foot. Time adjusted sales prices vary from $562,000 to $629,600. Time adjusted sales price per square foot ranges between $237 a square foot and $284 a square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the assessed value at $604,000. I just wanted to note that none of my comparables have a pool, and that a typical, so the cost to construct the pool in 2017 that came in on the permit was $50,000. I don't want to regurgitate what I've said in the past, but pools are like other things. They vary in value depending on age and depreciation, but this is a newer pool, and a reasonable adjustment on a newer pool would be in the neighborhood of $40,000. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the comparables. That's basically it. And if you could excuse, I noticed that right now I have a mistake on my map. There's one arrow pointing to nowhere. Please disregard that. It's an extra arrow I forgot to delete. But you'll notice that all the comparables are very, very close to the subject. One is 4 doors down in particular, comp number 3, which I think is the best comparable. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Kylick, do you have any questions for Mr. Gauthier?
I do. Mr. Gauthier, just to also mention that I have another property influence. It's the hydro transformer box. I have a picture here if needed to see. It's right on the front of our property. And then one that hasn't been considered is also a sewer manhole on our front yard, which we've had problems with. It's killed 2 blades of our lawnmower because it's protruding too high and we have to keep filling it in. So just to mention those 2 additional property influences, and I know you have it in your comparable, so just wanted to make sure that it was noted. But I do have a question, please, about your comparable properties. I was quite surprised when I was looking at them yesterday. You chose comparable properties that, am I correct, sales between $540 and $575 within the River Park South area? Yeah, and are you aware that there were 4 other houses on my street, Clayton Road, that sold in the period in question? So they're in the sales book, and they were, based on the square footage you provided, between 400,000 and 472. And then there's also on our adjoining street, I don't know if you're aware of this, I'm just also adding 4 on our street that sold between 400 and 472 in the period in question, but also an adjoining street to Ed Clayton, Faraway Lane, also had 3 houses sold in the time period between 417 and 465,000. And I have that to show here if you need to see it, because it's in the sales book and it's literally on our street or the adjoining street. So I would like to reject comp 3 based on that, because I think they oversold and we felt terrible as neighbors when they sold just before other properties and for almost 70,000 above what other people sold, purchase price. So I don't think that's a true market value, 82 Ed Clayton. And I guess my other question is, why did you not go through the sales book for Market 10 and find comparable properties that had finished basements, had probably more similar square footage, had the pool, and certainly had the encumbrances or the property influences? Because I've presented in my evidence, as you'll soon see, 8 properties that are probably more comparable with higher upgrades than we have. We just have tub shower. We don't have showers, and we don't during this period in question, There were no improvements. The pool, as you are aware, was already in a previous assessment. So we were increased on the pool, a few assessments ago, and it's not a new pool. It's going on 6 years now. So I just want to bring to your attention that I don't think that your comparable properties are fair and equitable based on what I just asked you about.
Well, I was fortunate enough to receive, and typically for whatever reason we don't, but I was fortunate enough to receive the evidence that you submitted and go through the comparable sales. I'll just let you know, I try very, very hard to find comparable sales that are as similar as possible to the subject property. Pools would not be what I would hang my hat on, because especially a newer pool is something that can be adjusted on. We'll get to this later, but taking comparables in a completely different neighborhood built in 1978 or 1984 that has a pool is not acceptable in any appraisal practice. These comparables are literally doors away from you. And if you guys want to review the map that shows them, I would encourage you to do so. But stretching out far and wide and using apples and pineapples for comparables is really misleading, to be honest. And I try not to be misleading and try to compare with properties that are similar style, that are similar age built, similar neighborhood, similar quality as much as possible. So I made that effort. I even made a special effort to use comparables that were backing onto the perimeter, to be fair with that. So sorry you feel that way, but I tried my best to find the cream of the crop.
Fair enough. So can you help me understand why you didn't choose the other four homes, the two-story homes on Ebb Clayton that sold between 400,000 and 472,000, or the adjoining street, which is what we walk on all the time? There are 3 two-story homes that sold for 417 to 465. You just chose the ones that were 500 plus that likely were in bidding wars, as we know happened. And again, as neighbors, we approached the family who bought 82 Ebb Clayton, and we felt terrible for them because they got caught in that. And then shortly after, 3 doors down, 68 sold for 472. So, if you're talking about being fair and equitable and you're wanting to pick something close, I think, I don't think that you necessarily did that. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why one sale never makes a market. I'll be the first to admit that. But there are several other sales that are close by that are relevant that also confirm the same value conclusion. Why I didn't pick, typically I present 4 of the best comparables I can find. Like I said, I'm looking at year-built style of homes. You haven't mentioned once any of these comparables on your street in your brief that I have here that I had a chance to go over, that I actually had concerns about, but we'll get to that portion later. If they were bungalows, if they were built, different year built, if they weren't within a size range. So when I look for comparables, I start with a size range, a year built range. I want to compare houses that are as similar as possible to the subject property. And what my hope is that I get enough good comparables with that. If I get too many, I tighten my parameters. So I'm really zoning down on the best of the best. But the fact that a bungalow may have sold across the street, to me, is irrelevant. It's not even going to hit my radar because our model is valuing them separately. I don't think they should be used as comparables because in the marketplace, these 2 different types of properties can fetch totally different values. So it's rule number 1 in appraisal: compare oranges to oranges, and even better, mandarin oranges to mandarin oranges. So you pick the most similar properties you can, and then you would adjust for any differences. And one of the striking differences is a pool. I have here that it's constructed in 2017 and that the permit value is $50,000. So, you would do a reasonable adjustment for that. I would rather adjust your neighbor's house if it's sold than go into Sage Creek in a completely different neighborhood and use a completely different style home, or a home that was built in 1978. As you presented your evidence. So
I haven't presented my evidence yet, so I still hope to have the opportunity to do that. This is just
So do you have any further questions for Mr. Gauthier at this point? I know you're obviously.
Yeah, I do. And he said, well, I wonder why you didn't keep the homes on Ebb Clayton, because they were actually, I was trying to find homes 2,300 square feet or higher to make sure that I was being fair in my comparables. But then I saw that you were choosing homes between 2,048 square feet and 2,184. So I didn't choose the other 4 two-story homes on Ebb Clayton that sold, or the other 3 two-story homes on Faraway Lane as my comparable properties, because I didn't have your evidence. I gave mine on Friday and got yours yesterday afternoon. So
but right now, Ms. Kylick, right now you're presenting a bit. Could you just refrain right now, just focus on asking Mr. Gauthier questions, and then we can get to your presentation shortly.
I'm just, I guess, I'm worked up, obviously, but I mean, I have the if you want this, I have the sales book that shows the other 7 homes within, left 200 meters, 500.
Well, you can present that to us when you present. So right now, it's just any more questions you have for the assessor.
No, okay, I'm fine. Yeah.
No more? Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Gauthier?
No questions.
Mr. Mahone, any questions?
One with respect to the in-ground pool, the valuation of about 50,000 that you indicated. Was this in-ground pool, or was there city records that you looked at that talked about its construction or building permits with respect to that in 2017?
Yeah, we had a building permit come in 2017 with a declared construction value of 50,000. Pretty typical for a pool permit value to come in at 50, 60, 70,000. Like, that's normal for what we see. Pools I'm really careful with, because when you get into really old pools, they may need a ton of work. Like, people have sent me quotes where their pool needs $30,000 or $40,000 of repairs because it's 20 or 30 years old. So a newer pool can add a lot more value than a pool that's basically turned into a fish pond. So you got to be careful with pools, but a newer pool like this, and when I say newer, okay, we'll call it 2017. Okay, so if you want to call that newer, that's fine. If you want to call that older, then that's fine too. A 2017 pool, I mean, I think a fair adjustment would be in the tune of $40,000. And I believe we sent a supplementary adjustment for that when we did add the pool in that neighborhood. I don't remember the exact amount, but it wouldn't surprise me to see it's close to that. So yeah, a newer pool does impact the value positively. An older pool, we've seen cases where the pool is very difficult to fill in and needs $40,000 or $50,000 and actually devalues a property. So you got to be careful with pools. It's not straight across the board. Our model tries to adjust for it based on the age of house structures and pools. We try our best to accommodate people if they call us with issues regarding their pools to be fair with that, but it's not an easy thing to do. But I would, like I mentioned before, I would much rather take a relevant, similar year built, similar location comp than go hunting around the backwoods in other neighborhoods for older homes with pools just to say, hey, this one has a pool, so it's a comp. Because in my opinion, it's not a valid comp going far and wide like that. So I presented you guys a map with my comparables so you can see how close they are. Why I didn't choose others on EB Clayton that could have been way smaller. Like I said, I start with parameters. I don't really care about a 1,300 or 1,400 square foot house that's sold across the street, because to me, it's not really relevant when we're looking at a 2,500 square foot home. I preferred comps that were backing on the perimeter so I don't have to adjust or factor that in, or have you guys have to do adjustments or factor that in. So instead I've provided with comparables. This neighborhood's pretty homogeneous. One of my jobs to add new construction in this very neighborhood. And if you take a walk and a stroll down in the newer areas there, it's like other newer neighborhoods where they kind of all look the same. So typical tract home builders made their way in there, and you've got your Ventura homes, you've got your Qualico, you've got your A&S homes. There's nothing, not going to say quality-wise that's very different, but when you're walking down the same street, it's not anything dramatically different between 4 doors down. Maybe some features, but not anything that would blow your socks off.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions. So Ms. Kylick, you can present your presentation to us now if you're ready.
Sure. So thank you so much. I just want to start off by saying, I'm just a regular folks, so I don't know all the jargon, so I'm trying really hard to take notes. but I'd like to volunteer on the Board of Revision. I'm retired, so I'm going to put in an application. But I would like to say, you know, after 34 years in healthcare and as a retiree, my income is reduced. I want to be able to age in place and live in my home. I don't want to be taxed out. And I am someone who believes in fair, equitable assessments. So the last one I got at 541 in 2018, which was my added pool, I said, that's fair. I didn't appeal, but this time I am, because we haven't done anything since 2018 as far as upgrades or improvements in the period, sales period or comparable period. And yet I'm going up 11%. And our median market 10 area, which is our area, was at, you know, max 9%. So I feel that my increase of 11.6% just didn't make sense. Again, the additional property influence of the sewer manhole on the front lawn. And my square footage is actually wrong, according to my builder, which was a Ventura builder. And I do have my floor plan here from when we first built in 2013, initialed by the builder as well as us. It's 2479 square feet. You know, when I was looking for comparable properties, Mr. Assessor, I forget your name, I'm sorry, Mr. Gaucher, you know, I was looking for size, I was looking for similar attributes as far as finished basement, a pool, because I thought it was important, but you're telling me that as, you know, our pool ages, it's going to be a detriment, and I can already see that our motor's going, but that's just because of what happens. But with the comparable properties on Ebb Clayton, you're saying you didn't choose 3, 6, 15, or 68 Ebb Clayton, or 2, 6, or 58 Faraway Lane. And in the sales book, they all sold for, you know, below 500,000. They are 2 stories, and they are similar in size to the ones that you put in here. But I'm a little disappointed that you're just choosing ones that were 500,000 plus, and the one on Ebb Clayton is not, like, they oversold. And I'll be honest with you, like, we were all in shock when they sold their house for what they did compared to all the other homes that are, like you said, similar on our street, kind of like cookie cutter. All the builders sort of built the same type of style home that year. But the comparative properties I'd like to bring to everyone's attention, please. 19 Data Court. This is our friend's home. They sold it, but it's what we based our home on. We just couldn't afford all the upgrades they had. And it's 2,426 square feet. They sold for $550. The adjusted price that you said would be $601,700, but they were assessed at $566. The difference with their home compared to ours, they have 5 bedrooms. We have 3. They have 4 baths, including a jetted tub, like a huge jetted tub and showers. We don't have that. We just have
Ms. Kelly, so just want to ask you one quick question. What was the date of this sale? I don't see it on your document.
Well, you know what? It's on the I got it from the 2021 sales book, and I'm sorry I didn't pick the dates, but it will be in that sales book because that's what I use. So I can open up the sales book if you want and submit.
Well, it's helpful for us because it has to be a property that sold before April 1st, 2021.
It did, because it's in that book that is on.
Okay.
So I went to the 2021 sales book, and that's where all my properties are from. So they either sold in 2020 or 2021.
Before April 1st in 2021.
Well, I mean, I have the sales book here. I'd have to go through all the pages to
okay,
find
well,
it.
yeah, just so you know that the assessment date is April 21st. It's before April 21st, 2021.
Yeah, and
anything after that would not be something that we could consider as a comparable.
So I guess my question, Ms. Chairperson, is if it's in that sales book that's on the City of Winnipeg website for 2021, like 2021 sales, I have it here, and that's where I brought my iPad. Wouldn't that be within the time frame? Because that's
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that book recently. But just so that if we're looking at these comparables, I don't know if Mr. Assessor is aware of whether these are within the time frame or not. Or
I'm pulling them up right now. I have a chance to review these sales this morning, and I'll point out if there's any sales that are not within.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, proceed.
If you could double check that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so just proceed. Okay, go ahead and proceed. I just wanted for you to be aware that when you're going through these, that I want to be sure that we're able to consider them, that's all.
Well, and I was very careful when I was looking them up. I didn't write down the date, but I wrote down the sales price and adjusted. I didn't realize the date was important, so my apologies, but it's definitely in that sales book. And if I have to go back and submit with the dates, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, continue, thank you.
So that one, I mean, they have mounted marble counters, hardwood, large deck, and they back onto a park, and they have no encumbrances. The second property, which according to the map that Mr. Gaucher presented, because he was saying, in the community, if we just go, Van de Boker is right here. I'm sure you can see this. So Van de Boker is walking distance. There's the park, and Southfield Drive is on the other side of the duck pond. So it's all walking distance. It's not like I'm picking this particular property, it's within 2 kilometers, if not less, probably less. It's a 2-story. It's 78 Southfields Drive, 2-story, 2155 square feet. It sold in the period. I found it in that sales book for $557, and there was no adjusted, and they were assessed at $528. It was very similar to our home. So it's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. But they had an upgrade of a jacuzzi, large soaker tub. They had a finished basement. They have the in-ground pool. The land is a little bit less by about 1,000 square feet, but their frontage is more by 18 square feet. They're at 5871, and our frontage is 46, and no encumbrances, no property influences. 67 Higham, which is also walking distance, and it's again on the map. It's right here, so right near his comparable property, 52 Brandmont Cove. It's a 2-story, 2208 square feet. It sold for $500, adjusted to $518, but assessed at $508. 3 bedrooms, similar to mine. I don't know how many baths. Maybe Mr. Assessor or Mr. Gaucher does. But they have upgrades like vinyl plank, finished basements. They have 2 patio areas, and they're on a pie-shaped lot, 792 square feet, and the frontage is 44. Now, the home that you're referring to, it's an older home. I agree. It's within 5 kilometers of my house. It's still Market 10, and it's 27 Aricia Bay, a 2-story. 2520 square feet. Again, I was trying to find things that were as close to our home as possible. Sold $540, adjusted $560. They were reassessed at $518. 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, double attached garage, finished basement. Quite a bit of renovations. You're talking about, these older homes when they're gutted and improved. Well, this one has quartz countertops, a 4-season sunroom, the in-ground pool. I have on my iPad a picture of a snapshot of their real estate ad, and it said that they even replaced the liner in 2017, which means same age as our liner in our pool. Their land is significantly higher, at 8,596 square feet. Their frontage is significantly higher at 5,190, and again, no encumbrances or no property influences. Another one is 35 Hollenberry Place, 2-story at 2124 square feet. It's sold for $496,289. Your adjusted price would be $542,900, assessed at $537,000. Again, a bit big, more bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. They have the upgrade of a 4-piece ensuite with jetted tub. They have the in-ground pool, and their land, similar size, 7752, but their frontage is more, 51. And they're less than 3 kilometers from our house. So again, they're closer. I'm not picking homes. I wish I could pick a home in Tuxedo, but I'm not. I'm picking homes within our Market 10, within our community. And then I also want to show another home. I mean, I have 8, and I don't know if you want me to go through them all. I know you have the evidence, but the next one is 836 Aldgate, 2-story, 2332 square feet. It sold for $505. Adjusted price that the city gave it was $538,800, but assessed at $521. I don't know how many bedrooms or baths, but the land very similar size, 7236. Frontage very similar, 46.8. And this property had influences. That's why I chose it, because it had light traffic. We have heavy traffic, and they had bus in a corner. And we have the hydro transformer box, the MTS box, as well as the manhole. My two more, please bear with me. 24 Winslow Drive, it's 2-story, it's bigger, 2630 square feet. It's sold for $511. It's also within 5 kilometers of our home, adjusted at $533,500, assessed at $485,000. I don't know the reason for the decrease. I couldn't find their ads. I don't know how many bedrooms, but it showed a finished basement, double attached garage, and what we called it a enormous, huge yard, 12,056 square feet, and their frontage was 90. And then I know you mentioned, I picked a home in Sage Creek. I did, because I was trying to look at an area that maybe is even more upscale than ours, because Sage Creek is more desirable. Where we are in River Park South, we're just normal folks, and it's not Van Hall, and it's not, the more affluent, it's not Royalwood. We're just, pretty basic cookie cutter homes. And so I tried to find one in an affluent area built around the same time. So 2012, 2,082 square feet, sold for $537, adjusted at $565, but reassessed for 2023 at $532. Their ad showed 3 bedrooms, just like us, but upgrades such as hardwood floors, quartz countertops. They also had a finished basement, double attached garage, a widened driveway, a pool, a ground pool, and the land was smaller, 4,915 square feet. But they also had property influences such as medium traffic, bus, and corners. So I agree that we need to be increased. I'm not denying that. I think 65,000 with no changes in the period of time is just too high. And I think I've demonstrated with the 8 properties, and particularly 28 Southfields Drive and 27 Euricia Bay. I mean, they're all within our community, walking distance within our community, that, I think a more reasonable and equitable increase would be appreciated for us, so we could age in place. And again, I'm fine with an increase. 25,000 for just living in the house, I guess. I mean, we didn't do any changes. The pool was already assessed and increased the last go around, basement two times ago. And so I guess that's my evidence.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have a few, yes. I was just wondering if there was a reason why 6 of your comparables, like why you chose them, why 6 of them were built between 1978 and 2007, when your home was built in 2013. And do you believe the age of a dwelling is relevant to its market value?
Yeah, you know what, I actually don't. And I spoke to a real estate agent friend, and he said when it's an older home that's been upgraded, they're actually more valuable. Like the woodwork, if you go into the new homes right now, and you talk to any woodworker, he'll say, oh, you have particle board for your cupboards, versus the older homes. I mean, much more attention to quality, finishings. And a lot of these homes, all of these homes, I have the ads on my iPad. I took screenshots. They've been upgraded to sell. So with hardwood and quartz and, jacuzzi soaker tubs that we don't have. And so I think that if you think about our city of Winnipeg, which is just beautiful, some of the most desirable areas are older homes like Tuxedo and Charleswood. And so I don't think the age matters. I was trying to find properties to really demonstrate a fair and equitable assessment based on size, finished basement, and a pool, because I think it's hard. And I was trying to find encumbrances, and it was really hard. We didn't know we were holding lot when we bought the lot from Ventura. They didn't tell us that there was going to be all this stuff on our property until after, and we had already signed. So I wish we would have known, because it's not really pretty. Grandkids are going to be playing on hydro transformer boxes, bless their hearts, but we're going to keep them away from that. So your question, whether I think age matters, it does if they don't do anything. If they, it was your words actually when they're doing renovations and it's a choice lot, then I think then it's comparable property.
I just want to know, I guess, if you're aware that comparable number 3 and number 8 are not in your neighborhood at all, and what were your reasons for using these comparables? I noticed.
So number 3 is Haven Bay.
I noticed that you criticized me for not using comparables on your street, but yet I was hoping you would have provided us with some of those that we could have reviewed. But I didn't see any comparables on E.B. Clayton.
Yeah, you know why I didn't choose them is because the 4 that sold were between 2,000, like they were lower. They weren't around the 22 to 26 that I was trying to find. And I didn't want to choose homes that were 2-story on my street that were a little bit smaller. But then in your comps, you did. You chose one that was 2,058 that sold for over 500,000. I could have chosen the 4 then on my street that sold for under $500,000. But I was trying really hard to find fair and comparable properties. And number 3 actually is, it's on your map actually. So it is on our, right beside your 42 Brant Cove. Higham Bay is right here. And then Vanderbilt is right here. It's all within our community. Same with that. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that when researching these sales that I could not find the sale at 836 Aldgate Road at all. And that 35 Hollingsbury Place, you have a value of $496,000 for the sale price. My records and Land Title's records show that it sold for $545,000. We adjusted at $577,000. So for whatever reason, your numbers are way off here.
35 Hollingsbury Place?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Assessor, do you have a question though for Ms. Kylie?
No, I think that's it. I mean, just wanted to make sure she was aware that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions?
I do. With respect to the percentage in your evidence, you indicated that the percentage increase of the assessed value since 2018 on your property was 11.6%, whereas the median in that area was 9%. Would you be, well, and then you continued on by indicating that $20,000 increase, which was 3.7%. Is so my question is, having regard to those math calculations, would you be happy with would you be satisfied, if not happy, with a 9% increase, which is the median amount, or is there some reason that your property should be assessed less than the median increase for that area?
I think 9, I mean, would be more fair than the 11.6. Again, we have property influences that other folks don't. And so if you're looking at that, then, I think that impacts our resale for sure. When you have all those gadgets on your lawn and on the side of the house in the front, it's not very attractive. And I have pictures here if you want to see them. But I'm not very good at math. I'm a healthcare worker. I worked really hard, but math was not what I did. So, but I think that, around 580, I don't know what that increase, like to me, 580, 585 would be reasonable and fair. It still puts me a lot higher than all my neighbors, other than the one across the street that sold for too much. And bless their hearts, I hope they come here, because if they compare to all the properties on our street, they just pay too much as a family, and we feel bad for them.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moretzky, do you have any questions?
Yes, in your comparables here, I think in your introductory paragraph, you said that these comparables are similar size in the sale book 2021 or better attributes with finished basement / pool. So are you saying that they all have finished basements and all pools, or?
No, that's what I was searching for, because I really thought if I come here, I need to have properties in the Market 10, which is our area, that would be, similar attributes, similar size, finished basement. I didn't want to come here and say, oh, here's a house but it didn't have a pool or a finished basement. To me, that wouldn't be good evidence. So I was really searching hard to show like these properties that are comparable with similar, even better attributes. Their upgrades are certainly more than what we put in.
So would it be accurate then that if you didn't mention that it had a pool in any of these, that it does not have a pool? That'd be
that's true. Yeah. So I highlighted it when it had a pool. I found the 78 Southfields Drive, which is again walking distance. They back onto the duck pond, and they're right across the street from the Higgums. So like there's the beautiful duck pond and the walking path, and they're on the other side of the duck pond. And again, 3 bedrooms like ours, but they have the soaker tub and the no encumbrances. So I did highlight when it had a pool, and I made sure they all had finished basements. I didn't pick a property that didn't have a finished basement.
so the sale price, and you have the adjusted price. That's all in that.
It's in the sales book, yeah. And I'll have to look up the 35 Hollandberry Place. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. I was. If I made an error there, I'll find it again and I can email it to someone because everything came from that sales book. And if I need to cross-check the dates of sales, I'm willing to do that. That wasn't something I knew I needed to do, but it was from the sales book on the City of Winnipeg assessment site.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think you've presented enough information. I don't think you need to come back with any more unless somebody else has a question. Ms. Redsky, do you have any more questions?
So what do you think would be the fair assessment for your house?
I'm feeling a fair assessment would be about $585. And that's still putting me up 40-something thousand, because our last assessment in 2018 was $541. And again, no changes, no upgrades, no additions in the assessment period. And so that's still increasing me by $44,000.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, thank you. I think my questions have all been answered. So Mr. Gauthier, would any summary in your part?
No, I just urge the Board of Revision to map the comparables and look at the year built on our website, because upon investigation, I think that you'll find that the comparables that I've selected are a lot more relevant than a lot of these comparables that I feel were hunted in far and wide. Our assessment factors in a newer pool, and I think that's an important thing to factor and adjust for. You know, when looking at the homeowners comparables, some of them don't have a pool, so once again, an adjustment is necessary for that because our model is adjusting for that and the market adjusts for that. But yeah, in summary, I think it's important to use homes that are built around 2013, maybe as far back as 2007. Because then you're really starting to get into substantial adjusting and comparing apples and oranges. So I urge the board to review those facts and look and map the comparables that have been presented today that haven't been mapped. Yeah, that basically sums it up. I mean, I think the best comparable is 82 EB Clayton. You got to add a pool and you got to add a basement finish to it. Those are the two differences. Otherwise, it's 4 doors down, it backs onto the perimeter. Pool is easy to adjust for, so is a basement finish. So I think it's a lot easier to take a pure comparable than it is to take something built decades ago that are, 5 to 10 minute drive away in a totally different neighborhood. The appellant has mentioned Market Region 10 as being her neighborhood, but we have several NCAs. These are neighborhoods that are sub-neighborhoods within that. And I have new construction in the entire Market Region, and I can promise all of you here today that comparing houses in different corners of Market Region 10, it's wildly different when it comes to market value. So be very careful. Compare apples to apples, neighbors to neighbors, if you can. Thank you. That's all for me today.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kylick, do you have anything you'd like to say in summary?
I do. I want to submit this. It's the sales data for River Park South and the 4 other properties on Ebb Clayton that sold between 400 and 472. They're all 2 stories, as well as Faraway Lane, which is it's attached to us on the left side. And they also sold between 417 and 465. I didn't, again, submit these as my comparable because I was looking for everything that was very similar to my property. But I want to make sure that this is on file because you're saying it has to be similar year built. These would be similar style.
Well, I don't think we can take any more printed evidence at this time, but you have put the evidence on record. So that's fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have.
That nothing else? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and you'll receive our order in the mail shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I normally at this point I would take a short recess so everyone could have a little bit of a break, but if we don't have any other applicants, then maybe we won't do that. So Stephen, did we want to try to go back to where were we here?
We do have one applicant in the waiting room.
We do have one. Is that property number 5?
That is property number 5, yes.
Okay. Okay, if we do have one more item on the docket, let's just take a very quick 5-minute recess. And so everyone can just have a little bit of a break, and we'll come back in 5 minutes and hear number 5.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Many discussions.
Yep. We're still on the record. Potentially.
Okay, we're live. Okay. You can bring the applicant on board and then swear the applicant in, and then we'll proceed. Thank you. Oh, do we have an assessor? Yes, we do. Good, great.
For that chance, if you will unmute, and I will swear you in.
Hi there.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. We're just going to get you sworn in here, and then we'll proceed.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Danny Lachance.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Lachance. We are just going to get started here. The assessor will begin, and then we'll proceed with your questions and then your presentation as well. So is that if that's amenable to you, we'll get going.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you for joining us. So the next item on the docket we are going to hear is number 5, and it's 34 Ferndale. And Mr. Gauthier, please proceed when you're ready.
Subject property is roll number 060903230000, 34 Ferndale Avenue, located in what we call Norwood West, but commonly known as Norwood Flats. It's a 1.5-story dwelling built in 1944, 1,415 square feet, with a full basement, with basement finishing, 1 full bath, 1 half bath, 1 shower. It does have central air conditioning. We have 1 fireplace on file. We have, I guess, no attached garage, but we have a multiple detached garage. We have no pools for the time being. More to come on that. And no sunroom on file. To note, while we're speaking of the pool, there is a permit. Unfortunately, we're behind in our permit processing for small permits. We're working on catching up with that, but we have a permit that came through for a swim spa, declared construction value of $30,000 that has not been added to the roll or to this file at this moment in time. So a little side note. The land size is 5,996 square feet, which you'll see is quite typical in this area. We do have a light traffic influence. Trying to think here. We have the assessed value $454,000 for 2023. The property did sell way back in 2013 for $375,000. That's the last time it changed hands. That's pretty much it for the subject property. I will move on to the comparable sales. So they're all in Norwood Flats. They're all 1.5 stories. Year builds vary between 1940 and 1946, so pretty tight range there. Effective year builds vary from low end of 1954 to high end of 1975. Living area varies between 1,300 square feet and 1,468 square feet. They all have full basements. They all have some sort of basement finishing. Full baths range between 1 and 2. Half baths range between 0 and 2. Showers are all showing as 1. Central air conditioning is present in all of the comparables except comparable number 4, does not have AC. Fireplaces, only the subject property has a fireplace, none of the comparables have. Attached garages, not very common in the area, so none of the comparables have those. Detached garages, the subject has a multiple detached garage versus the comparables that all have a multiple detached garage as well, but comparable number 1 only has a single detached garage. No pools other than the subject has a pool. I will confirm with the homeowner that that 2020 permit did go through. It has been installed, but I suspect there is a pool there now. None of the comparables have a pool. Sunrooms, I have no across the board. Land size, as I mentioned, similar. The beauty about Norwood Flats is mostly a grid, so land size is pretty similar. Location, comp 2, 3, and 4 have buses, light traffic, negative location influences. As the subject, I guess, has a minor negative light traffic influence. All the comparable sales are in our reference period. The sales vary between 430,000 at 400. We'll call it 431 at the low end, and at the high end, 457. So pretty tight range. The sale price per square foot comes in at a range of $299, or call it 300 to 349 per square foot. Time adjusted sales prices varies between 400 and we'll call it 457,000 and 487,000. So also a pretty tight range. The time adjusted sales price per square foot is a range of 311 per square foot to 371 per square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of 454,000. And yeah, that's pretty much it at this point.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lachance, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I do. So a couple things. We do have, I agree that, with a lot of the things the assessor mentioned about our home. One of the questions I did have is, was he aware that our garage is a much older garage, smaller than a double, and it also has had fire damage that we did get, it was basically sealed, if you want to put it that way. So that's a question I had for him as well. Our fireplace, as mentioned, is condemned. In the house, it is full of insulation. We've never used it since we purchased the home because that's the situation that it was in. So I guess technically we could call it a decorative fireplace in our basement. So it's basically my TV is attached to it. So it's not really a working fireplace. And then the final thing is a question I had for the assessor is he threw out there about the permit for but a swim saw is considered a hot tub. It is movable just as a hot tub is. We only had to get a permit because you need to put in a pad for it because it needs to be on a cement pad. So it's in the hot tub, so it is not actually a pool because it's movable. We can take it with us if ever we change houses. We just need to get a boob truck and take it with us. And that's basically how we put it in as well. It's above ground and it sits. The only reason why there's even a permit for it is because we had to get that cement put in. So those are the questions I have for our assessor.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll ask you to present your information shortly. Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Mr. Moretsky.
Yeah, so just on the comparables and the subject, you have multiple detached garage. So multiple mean double then, double or more?
Double or more, yeah. Our system actually specifies the amount of square feet. On our briefs, we just put single, multiple. Typically, I'll have a peek to see it, usually do the aerial view, and if I see a really big garage, I'll mention it. But homeowner is now saying that the garage has little to no value. We have not been made aware of that. In those type of special circumstances, we would recommend to come out and do an inspection. If we feel like the value of the garage is, if it's a tear down type of thing, then it's something that we definitely have considered in the past and we can. I was just reading the notes on file that I have here, I printed off, and I don't see any mention. I know the homeowners come to some of the RAP programs that we've had at the Norwood Community Club in the past. So maybe it was mentioned, but I don't see anything noted here that there's issues with the garage. But we more than likely would be able to come down, have a look, and see if if it's warranted to remove it or to adjust the value to reflect.
I mean, we do park in the garage, like it's a parkable garage, but it's an older garage that basically, like I said, it has had fire damage. We decided to not replace it because we couldn't afford to, even with the insurance and that, the extra cost of putting in a new garage. So basically they sealed it up the best that they could and, fix it up so we could at least park in the garage as well. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. A swim spa, garage, swim spa. I think it's a
COVID pushed that one over.
Okay.
Right? So.
Mr. Moretsky, do you have any other questions?
And one more question.
Yep.
I'm a little hazy on this pool tub issue, or maybe very hazy. Is there, in 2021, April, was there a pool in this house or not? Yes or no? Is there a pool in this house
Well, are you asking the assessor that question? Now, this question.
Okay, yeah. Let me reword the question to the assessor. Is there a pool in this house? Yes or no?
Outside the house, right?
It's a hot tub.
Yeah.
Well,
again, the question right now is for the assessor. So,
oh, okay, sorry. I thought it was for me.
No, it's okay. I understand. But
there is a pool in the yard, right?
I have a permit right here that indicates that in July 2020, a permit was pulled. We have not got around to adding it to our file. Typically, when someone pulls a permit during the summer, it gets installed shortly after. But I haven't seen it with my own two eyes. It does say that it's 8 by 13, which confirms what Mr. Lachance is saying, is this is not a full-fledged $40,000 pool, $50,000 pool like we discussed on the previous hearings. But it is probably more than a hot tub, and the value of it was declared at $30,000. I don't know how we're going to deal with it at this point in time. It hasn't been added yet. I just wanted to mention there's a pending permit. If the value is changed substantially in our model when we add it, Mr. Lachance will be receiving a supplementary tax notice with an increase in value that we feel is reflective of the changes to the property. But for the time being, it has not been added. We're hoping to catch up with this stuff. We just hired some technical assistants to help us with decks and ACs and this type of smaller permits. I wouldn't put too much weighting on this without seeing it, because it sounds like it's maybe a glorified hot tub. I'm not sure. 8 by 13, so it's pretty big. You can have a party in there.
For this meeting, though, we don't have to consider a pool, or not. There's no pool to consider. Is that correct?
We can consider it because it's actually today's. You're asking for condition and what's there on our reference date, but actually the act stipulates that it's today, right now, as we speak, condition and what's there right now.
Yes.
The market value date of April 1st, 2021. So basically the pool's there today, right now, according to Mr. Lachance. The pool is also there in 2021 on a reference date, but that doesn't matter because it's actually what's there today, with the valuation date of April 1st, 2021.
But you didn't consider it, though.
I'm sorry?
You didn't consider it in your assessment, though. Isn't that what you said?
Well, I noticed this morning that there was a pending permit to add a pool. So one of our technical assistants is going to add the pool in the near future. We're going to add the pool and change the value. The act gives us the ability to go back at this point all the way back to January 1st, 2021, if need be. This was a 2020 permit, summer of, so probably got done by the fall time. So we could add it effective January 1st, 2021 and send a supplementary tax notice to Mr. Lachance if we feel that that's warranted.
If it qualifies as a pool, which is not.
Well, what happened?
Okay, well, yeah, but that's not, okay,
Anything
yeah,
is
that's not what we're discussing right now. Let's
That
just
sounds
stick
like
with
we
the questions
are.
for the assessor. Mr. Lachance, you can clarify what it actually is in your presentation, which will happen momentarily.
Sure.
Mr. Moretsky, do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, when the model was doing the assessment on this property, no pool was considered, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And in terms of the garage being, if it in deteriorating condition and a non-workable fireplace, would that generally, bring down some of the value of the property? If you were aware of that when you're assessing it.
It could, yeah, for sure. As I mentioned earlier, if a garage is a tear down, it's something that we can consider. Our model's pretty good at depreciating structures and dwellings. So what happens is if something's really old, it can factor that in. But sometimes if it's not usable at all, we show up there, it's flooded, the pad is wrecked, the roof's caving in. We have the ability to adjust for that. We would still leave it on file because it's physically there, but we would just do a manual adjustment, or if the homeowner comes to the residential review program, then the other option that a lot of people choose is just to demolish it. If it doesn't have any utility, demolish it, get rid of it, and then it's not accessible. So yeah, that's
okay.
Another option.
Okay.
The fireplace. You'll notice none of my comparables have a fireplace. If we remove this fireplace out of our model, the value will come down a hair for sure. And that's something we could look at if in cases where a fireplace is for sure not usable or decorative only, or there's been a mistake and it's just a fake fireplace or something like that. No problem. We can definitely look at investing that. We wouldn't change our market value. Say if we change the value a couple $1,000s, it doesn't warrant the paperwork in our effort to change the market value and issue an adjustment, because that translates into very little property tax change when we're talking about $2,000 type of thing. So we basically have a threshold here where if it's substantial enough, like if the value changes say 5% or something like that, substantial enough, we'll issue an adjustment. So there's a chance that we add this hot tub / pool thing that we're talking about, and one of us just decides here that, hey, you know what, we'll put it in, let it factor it in on the next reassessment. It's not enough of a change to warrant all this paperwork and changing the assessed value and possibly upsetting Mr. Lachance or whatever it might be, right? So keep that in mind. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Lachance, it's your opportunity now to present to us. So please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. It's been a long afternoon, I think, for everyone. But appreciate the chance to having to chat with you. So I did send over a document that outlined a few things. One thing I hadn't mentioned in the document was when we did purchase the home in 2013, it still kind of is a little bit that way now, but not quite as much, according to our realtor that I spoke with recently, that we had to probably pay in 2013 we figured about $25,000 to $30,000 more to get into Norwood Flats. So we paid above market value, but we had to do that to get in the area. Based on, it was at the high end of what the house was valued according to the realtor. And when the bank assessed it, they said basically they still allowed it, but it was basically on the high end. So in my first table, I think the biggest thing that, I know that, we're kind of, one of those things is that our assessed increase is about 21%, which is crazy compared to even like the amounts that was the examples or the comparables that were sent by Mr. Gauthier. that percentage of increase is absolutely nuts compared to what the ones I have is around 9% increase in taxes. And I'm, that's a difference for me of 13% compared to everybody else, including my neighbor who's got a huge home, which I did mention further down. But in my table, I have an average of around 394,000 as the average price of like the sale price. 394. And, which were being proposed at 454. And those are some comparables. I did look at some, a few other houses in the book there that you mentioned, the sales book, which I didn't realize we had access to. And I found a few other properties that were very similar at 40 Ferndale, 88 Ferndale, 131 Birchdale, which are all 1.5 stories, roughly the same amount of square footage. One of them a little bit bigger on Monk, 157 Monk. And those averaged out for the sales, and those are all in the book, like, between 400,000 to 405, 320, 321. They come out to like an average of and that's the adjusted price, 375, 775, so $376,000 for very comparable houses right around where we are. The ones that I proposed, on my document were very similar in size as well, very close to the dates we were talking about. I'm being proposed at 454, and these houses they sold at 390, 376.5, and 435.
Okay, I just want to let you know that of the houses that you have proposed here, 2 of those sales are outside of the assessment period, so they're after April 1st, 2021. But we can certainly look.
We can go till all.
Yeah, the one that sold in 2020 is one that we can look at as comparable to yours.
Okay, well, and that's why I mentioned the other ones that I pulled up. That averaged out to 376,000. Those 4 addresses that I found. On Monk, Birchdale, Ferndale, and Ferndale, which are all 1.5 stories, roughly between 1,300 square feet to 1,428. They're coming out to 376 as an average. And even if you look at their assessments, which I know we're not supposed to mention, so I'm not going to, but mine is still at 21% increase. And my house has not had any upgrades. I know that Mr. Gauthier has mentioned a lot about this, so-called pool. It's basically an above ground giant hot tub. And, it was basically, we talked to our realtor, and he basically has told us that because it's movable, it is a hot tub. It is not connected to the ground except sitting on a pad. I don't think any other houses have an increase in taxes because they have a hot tub. Because hot tubs are hot tubs, and that's exactly what it is. It is a glorified hot tub. Yeah, you can fit a lot of people in it because we are a family of 5 and everyone's teenage to adults, but we all live in the house here. But basically it's an above ground big hot tub. So that's why I'm saying for that part of it, it doesn't count as a pool. The only reason we did have to pull that permit, like I said, is because we had to have that cement pad put in. So regardless, that, whether Mr. Gauthier took that in consideration or not, you look at just what all the other houses are comparing, even the comparables that Mr. Gauthier showed, those average out to $444,000, and with a little bit of change on there. So 444, the average out. Mine is going to 454. My neighbor who has a 2000 or 1916, my immediate neighbor, and that's in table, I believe 3, in my document that I sent. Let me just scroll down here. No, those are just other comparables just with regards to their taxes. And so I know we're not supposed to kind of talk, so I won't talk about that. But I'll go to table 3. 30 Ferndale, which our immediate neighbor, has just had a giant brand new reno done, and it's been taken into consideration. It's 1916 square feet, and they're coming out to about 305 a square foot, and they're going up 13%, but they also have a brand new reno, which is just huge. There's another house on Claremont Avenue, which is 2,500. And I know that one is 1909, but if you've seen that house, it's an absolute incredible, beautiful home. And they're getting proposed at 377. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, like why my home that basically is a typical 1.5 story with not really any upgrades, a fireplace that is not usable, a garage, like I said, that is usable, but it's had fire damage, and is on the older side. It's not falling down, because then we probably would have torn it down. You know, those things come to us that just makes us seem like it's 354 is very, very high and a major increase from where we were at. We're going from 375 to 454. That is a massive increase. There's no one in my neighborhood that is going up that amount. And we haven't done anything to the home. We built some flower boxes in the front. We've beautified a little bit. Like we've done some landscaping, which has all cost me money. You know, I know that maybe that all takes into consideration. People look at that, you know, and then it just seems to me, you know, even the comparables that Mr. Gauthier provided is still lower. The average rate, and if I remove the higher end of one that's on Tashi, which I don't really like that comparison to one on Tashi, which is 478, the other ones come out to even less than 444. They come out to I believe like around 440 or something like that, or even less, because the 478 brought it up to 444. So you take his comparables, you average that out between the four, it's still less than what I'm going to be assessed at. And I'm thinking that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier.
Sorry, I forgot just to mention, we did, you know, I know it says light traffic, and, you know, I know it's one of those things, but we are on Ferndale Avenue, which is the out street to leave Norwood Flats, because it's the street that has a light on it. And I don't know, maybe that's just considered light traffic. But for us, at certain times of the day, it's heavy traffic, because everyone uses Ferndale to exit our area. There's only one set of lights besides Taché, and it's Ferndale. So everyone from Lindale turns on to Ferndale and goes up to the end of the street to exit our area, which is something to consider as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gauthier, do you have any questions for Mr. Lachance?
I do. I was just reviewing the evidence that was submitted here. I just wanted to know if you were aware that you only presented one admissible comparable at 23 Hemlock Place, and that after reviewing the pictures on MLS, it shows that it's quite dated. Were you aware that the house was dated?
No. And I, you know, I thought I had all of 2021 that I could have used. I thought that's what was the date was 2021, all of 2021. So I was into June and July, which is not very far off from April, but I understand that, you know, at this point that's not, and that's why I mentioned those other ones. You know, we're in the sales book.
Okay, I had another question. Is given that you paid $375,000 in 2013. Is it possible that our previous assessed value may have been too low for your property, and that might be the reason why your property value increased more than some of your neighbors?
No, I don't think so, because you look at all my neighbors and you look at all the 1.5 stories in the area, they're all being assessed lower. There's a few that are being assessed higher, and I'd be really curious to see what the deal is on those ones. But I would say most of the houses, some of them that are bigger and smaller, no one is going up 21%, and no one is being assessed on a 1.5 story, basically 454. Like even the prices, even the ones you've shown me are not going for 454. And yet we are. And our house was basically the same as all those. Like, you know, nothing major. We've not done anything in the house except just regular upgrades and regular maintenance and stuff like that. So
were you given a copy of my brief? Because I have sale prices that range between low of 430 to the high of 457, and the time sales prices that range between a low of 457,000 and 487,000. So you keep mentioning these lower values, and I'm mixed up. I think maybe you're using assessed values, or are you looking at?
I'm talking about the sales price.
Well, I don't have
457.5, 430, 450, 440, and even if you go the higher ones, it still comes out to less. So, and you know, you look at just even the comparables that I've given, they've gone lower than,
Well, one comparable that I can look at, that's 23.
Yeah.
The other
But if I look at your comparable, you know, we're going on sales price, right? And you look at those sales prices, and I mean, you say, oh, we've got time adjusted, but that's almost like a guessing game as well, right? So you look at their assessed, what they're being assessed on the website though, and it's higher, it's lower than what we're being assessed for. And yet our house has not had any upgrades, like nothing that's had to pull a permit or anything, like nothing like that.
I'll urge you and this board that's already aware about Leela Farms versus the city assessor. It's basically the highest court, Court of Queen's Bench ruled that comparing assessments is not admissible. And that's why we've opened up this session today with, we're not here to compare assessments.
But it was mentioned in the other 4 that I listened to that some people, there were some questions from the people who were listening in, the fellows that were there and the other people about people's percentage going up. You even just asked the previous lady, what would she be comfortable? You know, we're going up 21%. If I just look at that, just talking about my own home, that I'm not comparing to anyone's, I'm going up 21%, yet nothing was really done on our home except just regular maintenance and making it look pretty. And everyone else, you know, is going up less. So if I just talk about my house, 21%. And I don't think that's a fair value for what, I don't even know if I could get 454 from my home on the market right now. And usually the city, I mean, you guys use the sales, but I don't think I can get it right now today. You were talking about today and talking about what's on the property today. Well, if I don't think I can get that amount for my home, I really don't.
Condition today's sales price, April 1st, 2021. But yeah, I don't have any further.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
No, I think I do not either. So I'm just going to ask Mr. Gauthier, do you have anything you'd like to say in summary, please?
Well, I just want to remind the board of, like I said, previous court rulings that basically dismiss most of the evidence that we've discussed for the last 10 or 15 minutes, other than 23 Hemlock Place, which is extremely dated if you look at the pictures on MLS. My comparable sales support the assessed value. If you break down prices per square foot of way larger homes, then there's a lot of reasons why that doesn't work. But anyhow, that was presented as evidence. But I think it's important to focus once again on the sales. And, you know, even looking at what Mr. Lachance paid in 2013 for the home, to me, it seems to all line up and make sense. Are we potentially, Mr. Lachance may have mentioned other properties in Norwood Flats that maybe we have under assessed, don't know. It's possible, it happens, I come across it. But we're not going down that rabbit hole. So looking at the sales, the evidence to me is fairly clear, and hopefully to the board, and hopefully to Mr. Lachance as well. And please give us a call if you want us to come and look at the garage and consider that. That's something that we can definitely look at.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lachance, anything you'd like to say in summary?
Yeah, I'll just like to mention, you know, thank you to the board for listening in. I did do a lot of work on my document. Maybe I misread the dates. So Mr. Gauthier, I would appreciate maybe making a little bit of a laughing comment about what I put in my document. Because it was a lot of work on my part. And I think anyone who has a 21% increase in their taxes when there's been no renos done would be coming to talk with the board today. Because I think you would, Mr. Gauthier, as well as anybody else on the board would, and that's what needs to be considered. Maybe we maybe mixed up the dates when I was looking at the dates that I had to put for the sales comparables, and that's on me. But if you did look at the other ones that I mentioned that I did pull up while I was waiting for the other people to present, it ends up coming out to much less. And I'd be very happy to, you know, prepare something and send that out if that was something that would be considered. But at the same time, a 21% increase, I agree that it needs to be an increase. It makes sense. You know, houses go up in value, and that's what we hope in our city, and that's why we invest in real estate, and that's why we buy homes. But to have it go up at the amount that it has, compared to what's going on in the neighborhood and what even other houses are selling for that are comparable, not necessarily just the ones that Mr. Gauthier, presented, which of course would match up to what the assessment was, right? So, but yeah, I would just consider that 21% is a little bit crazy for an amount to go up. But
okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I know you had to wait a little while, so thank you for being patient, and you'll receive our decision in the mail shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have not heard item number 4, correct?
Correct.
22.
Okay, and we do not have an applicant?
We do not have an applicant.
Okay, so Mr. Assessor, could you please read the item number 4, which is 22 Eastwood Drive? Could you please read that onto the record, please? And just run through your presentation quickly for us. Sure,
I'll try to be as quick as I can. So the subject property is roll number 0400243490. It is 22 Eastwood Drive, located in the neighborhood of Valhalla. It is a 2-story built in 1975. We have 10 years added effective age in 1985, so mildly renovated. 2,347 square feet. Full basement with basement finishing, 1 full bath, 3 half baths, 2 showers, has central air, 2 fireplaces, a multiple attached garage, and no outstructures or pools that we have here on file. The lot size is 9,583 square foot, and it is on the Red River. We have the assessment at $600,000 even. We had it, our model came in at 613. Homeowner called us during the residential review appointment program. We reviewed it and dropped it down to 600 from 613. This property changed hands in 2019 in our reference period. It's a pretty unique property. Normally, I would focus a lot more on comparables, but I'll be honest with you, finding comparables on the river is challenging. It sold for $549,000 in 2019. When you time adjust that to bring it to our April 1st, 2021 reference date, it actually time adjusts to $613,000, which is what our model came in at. Just happens to be a fluke, I guess. But so that's the subject property and the subject sale. I tried my best to find comparables that were on the river. So I have 2 of them that are on the river. Of the 4 comparables, they're all 2 stories. Year built ranges between 1927 and 1986. Effective age varies widely between 1987 and 2007. Living area varies as well between 2141 square feet and 2674 square feet. They all have full basements, but comp number 1 and comp number 2 have full and part basements, which usually indicates an addition was added to the house. Typically, that's what that means. Basement finish, they all have. Full bathrooms are between 1 and 3. Half baths are between 0 and 3. Showers between 1 and 2. They all have central air conditioning. Fireplaces range between 1 and 2. Comparable 1 has a multiple garage. Comparable 2 has a single. Comparable 3 does not have any attached garages. And comparable 4 has a multiple. No detached garages across the board other than comparable 3 that has a multiple detached garage. In-ground pools, only comparable number 3 has an in-ground pool. Sunrooms, only comparable 2 has a sunroom. The land range is also quite spread out. At the low end, I have 7,179 square feet. Varies all the way to 16,634 square feet. Comps number 2 and 3 are Red River adjacent. The sales are all within our reference period. Sales prices range between $538 and $825. Sale prices per square foot range between $215 per square foot to $353 per square foot. Time adjusted sale prices range between 562,000 and 900, call it 21,000. Time adjusted sales prices per square foot vary between $221 a square foot and $394 a square foot. My recommendation is to maintain the assessed value of $600,000. We've already dropped it $13,000, and the sale of the actual subject property in our reference period confirms this. We haven't heard of any kind of issues with the property that would impact the value dramatically. I did see in the brief this morning that the appellant mentioned some erosion issues, but I did map it, and there's about 226 feet to the river's edge. So some erosion may not be as serious of an impact on market value as if your house was right on the river. Like I've seen cases where the house is at risk of falling into the river. So there's miles, I guess, a runway between the house and the river. So I'm not too concerned with that, but if the homeowner chooses to reach out to us, we can come and inspect it. And if there's issues with the riverbank, we'd be glad to consider that. That's
okay,
all.
Thank you. Mr. Mahone, do you have any questions for the assessor?
I do not, thanks.
Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, and I have no questions, so thank you. So I believe that we've heard all the items scheduled on the docket today, and I'm now going to declare the hearing is now adjourned. So thank you, everyone.